information engagement stage. Welcome to the next panel debate. My name's Clare, I'm MD at the Content Marketing Association. I'm joined today by three very exciting panellists. We're here today to discuss with you 2020, the future of content marketing. Now, I don't know about any of you, but I remember when Buck Rogers was set in 2020, and I can't quite believe it's only a couple of years to go. So we are going to be talking about artificial intelligence. We're going to be talking about all of the things that we need to know a lot more about today. So, to introduce my panel today, we've got Mark Thompson from ITN Productions. Mark's an account director at ITN Productions. He spent the last 5 years creating, strategizing and producing content for a large number of brands. People like Barclays, for example, where Mark was instrumental in securing a gold at the International Content Marketing Awards last year for his work with Barclays. He was also instrumental in launching the Barclays YouTube channel. We're also joined by Kevin. Kevin is MD at BlueGlass. Kevin is co-founder of BlueGlass, and that's a SEO and content marketing agency, strategy-driven SEO content marketing agency. Kevin's been in the industry since 2003 and takes a strategic role to help deliver award-winning results for clients such as Deloitte, Expedia and the Financial Times. And then Gary Knight joins us from ITV. Gary is Commercial Content Director, and I hope he doesn't mind my saying he's been in the industry a little bit longer than Kevin, and in fact has been at ITV for 39 years, which I think actually deserves a round of applause. Gary looks after sponsorship, digital partnerships, branded content and product placement, amongst other things. And Gary, I've been told that launching Coronation Street in the Chinese market was probably one of the most interesting things you've done at ITV. Can we see that on YouTube?
No, it's hidden.
Okay, shame. Right, okay. So before we start, given that we're going to be talking about the future, I just wanted to ask a show of hands, just to see how many of you are using voice-activated apps, like Siri, for example. Anybody in the audience? Right, so a few of you. Okay. Have any of you got a virtual assistant at home named Alexa from Amazon? A few of you, right? Okay. So given that these things really have only come to pass in the last couple of years, it's interesting to see that already just within this audience, what do we get there? Maybe 5% of the audience are actually currently using this sort of technology. And the content that's going to power this sort of technology is really going to be important to all marketeers in the future. And how do we use this sort of technology? So the first question to the panel is, how is content marketing going to enable us to connect with the connected consumer? So over to you, Mark.
Hello, everybody. I think the first thing to note is that we are all connected consumers. I think one thing that's kind of key that I notice, especially when I'm working with brands, is the fact that most brands aren't actually connected themselves very well. So some of the global brands I work with have multiple marketing teams over different territories throughout the world. And it's interesting to see that a lot of these guys aren't actually connected themselves. So there's one arm of them that are doing some piece of marketing content, the other part in Brazil or wherever it is have no idea what they're actually doing. So I think with the connectivity side of it, just to talk about brands to start with, is to be able to be connected internally, I think, is the main thing first of all, and then be collaborative across the whole spectrum really. So when a brand starts out with an idea, for instance, again, we work with Gary quite a lot on ITV, and we get brands come to us and say, right, we want to make a TV commercial, 30-second TV commercial. It's going to be absolutely amazing. So we're going to send loads of products. It's going to be fantastic, and we'll use Keith Lemon or whatever it might be. And the first thing we always say is, well, what's the overarching campaign? Because that's what you've got to think about, and it's how you kind of collaborate with your agencies, with other teams, to make sure that everybody within your company is understanding of that particular campaign, and understands how to get the most from it. So it might be that you think about the campaign to start with. We might want a TVC as part of that, but you've got to all be connected with one message going across the whole thing, really, and then you start building that ultimately. Because I think at the moment a lot of brands are a little bit kind of disparate in terms of their messaging, so they'll just throw something out there as quickly as they can, thinking it's going to stick and going to work, but actually what they should be thinking about is the whole connected campaign, and sit back a little bit first, get all of that in vision before starting to use the kind of different markets, I suppose.
And then Gary,
the question.
It does. Are we talking about the amount of channels as well, Gary, in that respect, connecting the channels?
Yeah, I think connecting the channels as well, but I think just on the point on new technology, I think any new technology, whether it's VR, AI, or even the web when it came along, or even apps, it's about how do we bring that into the storytelling narrative that we're trying to involve our audiences in. So at the end of the day, all my company does really is manufacture television programs. That's what we manufacture, comes out the factory gate. And any new technology comes along, we've got to think about the audience first, because the audience are king or queen. And any brand that wants to interact with our audience, we've got to think, if we're going to put VR or AI into our storytelling narrative, how does that enhance the storytelling power that we then take to our audiences? And how do we make that a mass activity rather than a niche activity? And as Mark said, even when brands are producing ads, because don't forget ads, be they TV ads or branded content ads, they are telling the story of themselves. And therefore I think how we introduce technology into those environments is really key. I think there is a danger, sometimes we focus on the tech and we lose the storytelling power. And it doesn't matter how much technology develops in the future, we are inherently a species that loves storytelling. And that's the way we communicate. So on that connection point, our stories should become more powerful because there's more bits we can add to it with technology, and I think that's key. It's easy to say on the stage, but it's much harder to do. But that connected thing is really key, because we have got so much choice now in terms of what we can view, particularly the content we can view. The ability to connect that via tech and other methods is going to be really key, and I think that's what we really need to focus on. Focus on the story, focus on the audiences, and then the tech should be helping us to get out to more people more often in a more dynamic way. That's tech at its best, and that's what I think, if VR AI really moves on, that's what it should focus on, not just VR AI for its own sake. I think that's the key bit.
So storytelling, creativity in terms of storytelling, whichever the distribution method is, technology is still essentially a distribution method for great stories, whether it be branded stories or otherwise. I think, Kevin, you've been doing some stuff recently, haven't you, with Expedia, in terms of placing Expedia as a brand at the heart of the storytelling. You were just telling me earlier on.
Exactly. So I'm more from the digital side, and I think for us there's kind of no excuse not to have the data and insight that goes into who your audience is these days, because there's so much in terms of analytics and persona profiling, and basically you should know who it is that you're targeting, and then, like Gary says, make the content and the story central to that. The example for Expedia is we know who their target audience is, and then we can craft content specifically for those people. So for us, we never want to make the content too salesy. It should be about engaging with that content, with that audience, and getting in front of the right people, and then taking them through a journey that does lead to them becoming a customer, but you don't do it in a traditional sales way. You try to create something that they will love and engage with and share. And if we can do that, so one example is we created a campaign around movie characters and mythical creatures that just launched earlier in the week. And that means that you can tap into the people who travel with Expedia, but they also like watching Game of Thrones, or there's different things around that. So in this case, we've created an interactive map, and you can see where you can go on the types of holidays that for the TV shows that their audience likes to see. So there's so many things like that you can do when you know much more information about who you're targeting.
And it's still about really the three sort of pillars of content marketing from a brand perspective. We at the association would say it has to either educate inform, i.e. be utility, or be entertaining. And they're the sort of the three key steel points of any sort of successful content marketing strategy. And the way that the story then evolves is through personalisation. So moving into the next couple of years, there's been a huge increase in the amount of personalised content. So I wondered if you might be able to just give us some examples of some great personalisation. I know you did some fantastic work with Barclays, Mark, in terms of personalised content.
Yeah, that's right. So last year we did a campaign with Barclays where basically it was part of their kind of banking, their customer, and they had a lot of obviously data on all their customers. So we basically created a film around a kind of new, a kind of onboarding solution essentially. So it's an onboarding film for new customers, and through the technology we managed to personalise every single video that went out through another partner that we work with. So everybody who received an email with their name, the minute they clicked play in the email, that video rendered in real time and basically came out with their name. So, hello Mark, welcome to Premier Banking, this is what you've got, etc, etc. And it pulled in all the data that was held in a data farm. So it's literally pulling a piece of data about me straight into that piece of video content, which was fantastic because it's very personal. You feel as if you're being spoken to directly, which is very good from a brand point of view. I think also you want to be careful, I suppose, when as the future kind of goes on and personalisation gets more and more, that we don't get away from the whole kind of mass audience connect. I think people still enjoy watching things as an audience, watching things together, cinema experiences, sports matches, things like that. So I think we've got to be careful. I think personalisation is good and it works up to a point, but when you start kind of pinpointing individuals or spotting people who are watching things on their own, it might get a little bit individual and not so, together, I suppose. That makes sense.
Absolutely.
I think there's an interesting kind of old world, new world comparison here, because even for you guys in the room are marketeers, you think the whole purpose of any brand in stage one is to actually get people to sample it. If you can draw them in to get people to sample it, then there's a chance that you might be able to convert them either into short-term, medium-term or long-term users. And of course product sampling has been around since the dot. And actually, I guess the modern form of product sampling is recommendation engines. So, everyone from Netflix, even ITV on the Hub, is trying to put in front of people, and this is where I'm slightly nervous by the word personalisation. So I think personalisation is being used so frequently now, I'm not even sure what it means. I think it's about saying, it's putting suggestions in front of you that might just tempt you into that brand's domain or environment. And so obviously there's lots of algorithms that can say, you watched this last time so you might want to watch this, you interact with this brand last time you want to do that, and I think that's fine, but I think we mustn't forget that a lot of our decisions in this world are emotionally based, particularly when it comes to viewing content or interacting with brands, rather than sometimes logically based. And again, we are mainly emotional creatures, so I think there's going to be an interesting point of time where recommendations and algorithms need to start thinking about emotional preferences rather than just purely logical preferences. So I wonder when we're going to get to the world of emotional data.
Is that when technology is looking at your eye movements?
Yeah, as opposed to just purely, the numbers behind it. So I think good old-fashioned product sampling is what we do. Now, what's interesting, like anyone else, we have to advertise our brands to get people to sample them. So TV shows, we spend a lot of money advertising our shows to get people to sample them. So I can't see that changing, even in a hyper-personalisation world. And as Mark said, there's a danger in personalisation that you could end up becoming so nichely targeted that you end up missing out on the bigger prize. BMW often say, they sometimes target non-BMW drivers just to say, you probably can't have a BMW, one day you might. Very interesting, that's an emotionally driven argument, and it makes BMW current drivers feel good about the car they're driving. So I think there's still loads we've got to learn in this area.
Yeah, I think one thing I found really interesting was last year, and thinking about the future in 2020, I saw a talk from Robert Scoble, who is a big virtual reality enthusiast, and I asked him a couple of questions after his talk, and it was mainly around what the future of content and SEO search would be like. And his explanation was really interesting. So he was saying that you would wear a virtual reality headset and you would ask a question like, what is the best nightclub in this area? Rather than giving you a Google result, you will see the dance floor of different, say 3 different options of nightclubs that are near you, and you'll see like maybe even in real time what's happening right then. Based on, as Claire was saying, your eye movements, if you're smiling and you react positively to that, it will tell which one you will like, it will show you directions, maybe prices, and to me this sounds so far advanced. But the early adopters are doing this right now, and we'll probably see it creep up on us. The next iPhone that's going to be launched at the end of this year will, by all accounts, be a virtual reality phone where headsets can connect with it, and that is supposed to be a game changer. So I think when you get into that for personalisation, that's going to be massive, because there's so much that you can do on the back of that. And the job for content, and in our case for SEO, will be how do you create the content that is triggered first? How do you be that recommendation that is being shown to you? And people will have to create that kind of 360-degree virtual reality style content that is the best answer to those questions.
And at the moment when we go into Google, we're searching a question. If we want an answer to a question, and we're just searching, you know, what's the best local Indian restaurant, for example, and we'll come up on Google, and there'll be 100 answers, and then we've got a time and a place to actually look at those answers. Whereas if it's going to be voice command, then it's probably going to give us 3 answers. And what's the criteria for those 3 answers? So at the moment, if you ask Alexa, you know, she might say the Rogan Josh, you know, 35 Fleet Street. But how is that decided? Who decides what the voice automated service says? Or are you paying for that? Or can brands pay for that? So as marketeers, can they pay for that messaging? Can you make sure that you're at the top, that you're the first one that's mentioned?
I'm sure there will be an element of that. I've actually had someone come to me before and say, my sushi is the best in London, why aren't I #1 in Google? And it makes sense from their perspective, but ultimately it's an algorithm. It's about giving them the right signals and showing them and proving that you're the best result.
Gosh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, moving on from rapid eye movements, so there's been a lot recently in terms of fake news. We're all affected by it. Anybody who uses the web is affected by fake news. And we've got 5 minutes left on this panel, so just wanted to talk to the panel really about the importance of trust in branded content, the importance of how we manage trust in today's, you know, multi-channeled world.
Thanks, Gary, for passing me the mic when you said fake news and trust. Yeah, thanks. I think trust with brands is obviously key. I think more than ever, it's massively important right now. I think as part of trust, I think truth is a big thing. Us at ITN Productions, we kind of pride ourselves on storytelling, on true stories. Nothing's ever fake. We do real life documentaries, we do all these kind of things. I think the one fundamental problem with truth is that humans are generally crap at telling it. But we always want it, so we demand the truth all the time, but we're not very good at telling it ourselves. And I think as a brand, we've got to kind of take that on board and see if we can tell it in the correct way. How we create trust, I suppose, with brands is about creating meaningful content, not just churning out loads and loads of content. If you've not got something, or you've not got something to start the conversation with, then you're just making loads of noise and nobody wants it, basically. So I think the key is to think about the content you're going to make sure you maybe reduce it, so you're only making the content that actually means something to people. Then people will start trusting your brand more, because they'll start trusting the content you're coming out with, rather than just churning out content. There was something I heard about brands creating more content in 2 days this year than they've ever created in 2003, which is crazy, because if you've not got something to say, then don't say it. Don't make a story, don't make a film. Wait till you've got something to talk about. You'll become more trusted in the long term, and people will start respecting you a lot more, I think.
Right.
Yeah, I think the magic word, the one word that everyone has to keep in their vernacular, is authenticity. So, you know, a brand can do a stunt, or we can do a stunt for one day, but at the end of the day, back to the audience, because the audience is the customer. You know, unless we are authentic, and this is particularly true with celebs on social media now. You know, a lot of celebs advertising brands on social media, their fans know they're paid for it. This is not an authentic movement. And if we lose authenticity, as Mark said, we lose trust. And I think authenticity is going to be key to keeping audiences linked into any of our brands, whether it's a content brand like ITV or, you know, a fast-moving consumer goods brands. And I think the danger at the moment is we've lost authenticity, and it's kind of just been drowned in this world of it doesn't really matter, you can do what you want, and I think that's a terrible thing. In the long term, we won't build long-term brands if we do that. We'll build short-term products, and I'm not sure that's a good thing. So I think authenticity and brand loyalty go hand in hand, and it's how do we build that in this ultra, you know, fast-moving world, and I think that's going to be really key.
I would just echo that, to be honest. I think that's been summed up really well. From my perspective, it's all about building the strongest audience you can, and if you're not authentic, you're going to struggle to be able to do that. So I think focus on the quality message that you have to tell, and the audience will follow. But otherwise, you might get some quick wins out of fake news, for example, and there's people doing that, but it's not really the way that you build any form of trust or long-term brands. So yeah, focus on your real audience, and I'm pretty sure you'd be rewarded for that.
Thank you very much. I'd like to say thank you very much to my non-fake panel, and to ask the audience at this point if you've got any questions. So over to you. Don't be shy, come on, there must be some questions. Do you all know about technology that's coming? You can tell us. Go on. No, go on, go on. Hi.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. So I saw a panel earlier talking about the power of micro-influencers and how this is the new biggest thing, giving them the power. And to kind of echo your point around authenticity there, I thought I can see where this is going, but actually the more brands use micro-influencers to tell their stories, are we as consumers going to actually start believing less in those brands? What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are that as long as you signpost and you're very clear, and that there is an absolute delineation between what you are saying without payment. I think if you're taking payment, you have to be completely authentic about the fact that you're accepting a payment for it, and the audience will judge how authentic that is. But over to the panelists.
Yeah, I think you were talking about this citizens influence, so you know, these micro-influencers who are in theory not paid. They're not like the current influencers who are becoming much more, they are paid, right, okay. Then I think there is a problem with that, because it's like you go to a pub and you say, local pub, does anyone know a good plumber who can, you know, fix my taps, right? And you're operating on a level of trust there, yeah? You're hoping that no one in that pub is being paid to tell you that Joe down the road does it. And I think that's the problem. Even when you go on some sites now, you know, it's like TripAdvisor, others, is this real rating or is this fake rating, right? So am I really being told this is the best option for me? And I think that's the problem. Once you pay someone, you get into this whole world of, to what extent are they just saying that's being paid? So again, how much do we trust them? It's really, really difficult. And even if you personally know someone, the minute they're paid, you think, I wonder if they're just saying this because they're paid. So I think micro-influence is a bit of a, I understand the concept of it, and I think potentially it'd be very powerful. If they were freely operating out the goodness of their heart, rather than being paid, then I think we'd have different things. So I think beware.
Any other questions? Okay, I think we're done with this panel, so thanks very much for your attention, and thanks to our panellists.